At the end of every month, I always opened my savings account with the same quiet hope. Almost every time, I closed it with the same feeling: disappointment. It wasn't because we didn't work hard. It wasn't because we lived beyond our means. Somehow, every bill was always paid on time. But the number in our savings account never seemed to truly grow. I kept telling myself, maybe next month will be easier. Without realizing it, I'd been saying those words for years. My name is Clara, back then. Saving $1,000 felt like a dream that always moved farther away whenever we thought we were getting closer. The beginning of every month always feels full of possibility. My paycheck arrives, our list is ready, and I truly believe we'll save more this time. I start paying the electric bill, water, the loan payment, and Mira's school expenses. One payment after another, our account balance slowly shrinks just as we expected. Then come the expenses that never seem important on their own. Groceries, gas, lunch, and little purchases quietly appear almost every day. I always tell myself it's only a little. Somehow I keep saying the same thing until the month is over. One evening, I sit at the kitchen table and open our family budgeting app. I check what remains, hoping there's still something left to save. The number is always smaller than I imagined. Sometimes I move a little into savings, only to use it again when something unexpected comes up. I begin to wonder if something is wrong with the way we save. It isn't because we don't want to save. We just keep waiting for money that's supposed to be left at the end of the month. Months passed, and the same pattern quietly repeated itself. Every time our savings goal slipped away, I blamed the circumstances instead. I kept telling myself that maybe we simply didn't earn enough. It sounded reasonable, so I never questioned it. Then one afternoon, I looked through our spending records from the past few months. I began noticing a pattern that didn't seem to fit what I had believed. There wasn't one large purchase draining our money. Instead, I saw small expenses repeating over and over until they added up to much more than I expected. I thought about every month and we had been through. We always said we would save after everything else was paid, but somehow that moment never really arrived. The more I thought about it, the less it seemed connected to any single expense. It felt like our savings had simply been left until the very end every time. For the first time, I asked myself a different question. What if the problem wasn't that we had too little money, but the way we had been treating it all along? A few days later, I found myself back at the kitchen table after Mira had fallen asleep. A warm cup of tea sat beside a notebook filled with crossed-out numbers and small corrections. I compared the beginning of each month with the end. The pattern never really changed. We started with confidence, then our savings goal quietly slipped away. Then I noticed something I had never truly seen before. We had been treating savings like a choice instead of something that belonged in our plan. If there was money left, we saved it. If there wasn't, we simply told ourselves we'd try again next month. I closed the notebook and let out a quiet breath. It wasn't because I felt hopeless, but because the real problem was becoming easier to recognize. For a long time, I believed discipline meant pushing myself harder. Maybe what we needed wasn't stronger willpower, but a better system. That night, one question stayed with me. What if saving wasn't something we waited to do with what was left, but the very first thing we did when our income arrived? Our days kept moving in their familiar rhythm. Mira went to school, Armin left for work, and I settled into the same household routine that rarely changed. Whenever my phone chimed to tell me our paycheck had arrived, I felt a quiet sense of worry instead of relief. I already knew the race toward the end of the month was beginning again. I still tried to set money aside during the second week of the month. Somehow there was always a reasonable excuse to wait just a few more days. Sometimes an unexpected expense truly could not be avoided. Other times we simply told ourselves, it's okay, it's only this once. I slowly realized our money was never truly disappearing. It was simply finding its way to so many places before it ever reached our savings account. The feeling left me tired in a way I could hardly explain. We weren't living extravagantly or facing a financial crisis, yet I still felt like we had fallen short. That night, I looked at our savings balance, which had barely changed for months. I wasn't angry with myself anymore, only quietly wondering why our efforts always seemed to end in the same place. One afternoon, Mira sat beside me while I checked our mobile banking app. She watched the numbers on my phone with the quiet curiosity only a child seems to have. "Mom, what number is that?" she asked as she pointed to our savings account. I smiled and told her it was money we were keeping for the future. Mira nodded for a moment before asking one more question. "If it's important, why is there never very much in it?" I didn't answer right away. Her simple question felt much heavier than she could have known. That night, I kept replaying Mira's words in my mind. She wasn't judging us. She had simply noticed something we had long accepted without thinking about it. For the first time, I noticed how everyone else always came first. Bills, daily needs, and small expenses always moved ahead while our future quietly waited its turn. In that quiet moment, everything felt a little clearer. It wasn't that we couldn't save. We had simply kept expecting our future to live on whatever happened to be left over. After Mira fell asleep, I opened the notebook where I had tracked our finances for months. For the first time, I wasn't looking for another expense to cut. Instead, I followed the order our money always took at the beginning of each month. Bills came first, then groceries and household needs, and only if anything remained did savings have a place. A small smile crossed my face. Not because I had found the answer, but because I finally noticed a habit we had never questioned. I realized we had treated our savings like the last guest to arrive at a gathering. It was only invited in after everything else was finished. We always said our family's future mattered most, yet the way we used our money quietly told a different story. In that moment, I understood that saving was never about whatever happened to be left over. It was about who we chose to place first whenever our paycheck arrived. The guilt I had carried for so long slowly gave way to hope. Maybe we didn't need a bigger income after all. Maybe we simply needed a different order. The next evening, after Mira had fallen asleep, I invited Armand to sit with me at the dining table. Between us were 2 warm cups of tea and a notebook filled with months of handwritten budget notes. I quietly told him that I no longer believed we had failed to save. I said we had simply kept waiting for a moment that never seemed to arrive. Armand slowly turned a few pages before looking back at me with a quiet nod. Then he calmly asked what I thought we should change. I paused for a moment before answering. I wondered aloud what would happen if our savings moved first as soon as the paycheck arrived, instead of waiting for whatever remained. Armand sat quietly for a few seconds before a small smile appeared. He asked if that meant treating our savings like the one bill that always had to be paid. I smiled and nodded. For the first time, the idea felt much simpler than all the effort we had been making before. That night, we made one small decision that quietly changed our routine. We called it the inverse savings method, moving money into savings automatically as soon as income arrived, just like paying the most important bill first. The beginning of the next month felt a little different. When our paycheck arrived, we didn't open a shopping app or start paying bills first. We opened our savings account instead. With one tap, money moved automatically into an account we never used for everyday spending. A short notification appeared on my screen. Savings transfer completed. For the first time, our savings grew before we had the chance to spend it. A few days later, life continued as usual. We still paid our bills, bought groceries, and shared a simple dinner together. Our lifestyle hadn't changed. The difference was that our savings no longer depended on whatever money happened to be left at the end. Week after week, the balance in our savings account kept growing a little at a time. It wasn't a large amount, but I no longer felt like I was starting over every month. When the balance finally reached $1,000, I didn't feel richer. I simply felt calmer because, for the first time, our future truly had a place in our family budget. I no longer believe that saving is something you do only when there's extra money left. More often, it's a small decision to put tomorrow first, before everyday expenses quietly take all of our attention. I learned that feeling secure doesn't suddenly appear when the balance gets bigger. It grows little by little each time we keep the small promise we made to ourselves. $1,000 didn't change our lives overnight. The journey toward it quietly changed the way we looked at money, our habits, and our family's future. If our family's small story helped you feel a little more at ease today, you may find a friend in the other stories we share at Clara's Family Journal. Together, we keep learning to build a healthier, more mindful, and more prepared family, one small habit at a time. Now I'd love to hear about your own experience. What temptation makes it hardest for you to save each month? Share it in the comments, because a small habit that helped your family may become the beginning of someone else's story.